This video is going to cover performance rebuilding a Tremec 3650 transmission. I've got this one to do for a car that's here to get a 5-speed swap, but we're going to go through the transmission, upgrade the synchros, upgrade the shift fork bushings, and we're going to put a new tail shaft bushing and seal in it to make sure that it's not going to drip out of the tail shaft. We're going to go through tearing it completely down. This transmission has the typical second gear synchro problem, so we're going completely apart with it, just clean everything and put it back together with good parts. Got my tools laid out that I'm going to need. We've got a snap ring reverse plier, a 10mm and a 13mm. I've got a couple of punch sizes here because I don't remember exactly which one it's going to be. I've got a 10mm wrench, some small pry bars, a big pry bar, large mallet, and a small hammer for the punches. Also got my Milwaukee just for taking apart and for the bolts. Also going to need a shop press, a bearing splitter, wrenches for the bearing splitter. I made this custom tool for doing the tail shaft bushing. It's just to be able to press the old one out, press the new one in. And we're going to need various parts and pieces of what I got for spacers and stuff to be able to press on the parts the way we need to be able to disassemble and reassemble everything. These are the parts I'm using. We got part number for the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and reverse synchro, 1st and 2nd synchro, our shift fork pads, new tail shaft bushing, and seal. These are actually common across a whole bunch of Ford transmissions, not specific to the 3650. I'm going to try to do this video in sort of sped up real time just to make sure that we can show every step of the way on this. I'm going to say hopefully I remembered all the tools, but now I'm looking at the transmission right now and I forgot about the Torx head for the spring for the shifter. So I'm going to make sure to grab that, and I'll point out if we forgot any tools along the way. It is a number 40 Torx. Also going to try out getting some first-person video, see how that goes. I have some hopes for this with some of my other videos that'll be upcoming over the course of the next year. But we'll give it a try on this thing to help give a better view of what I'm actually doing while I'm working on it too. Let's get the show on the road. I want to make sure we have a nice spot to put all this stuff. I got a bench cleared off over here. Oh, we'll start laying everything out as we go. There. Pins out. Should add a magnet to the tool list. There we go. There are also these tabs on the sides for prying on if it doesn't come loose with a little tapping. At least this side's got it, but once it's up a little bit, you're pretty good to go. And that tail shaft comes right off. Make sure you get your shifter cup. You do not need to pull the reverse switch, or sorry, the speedometer switch. But if you're going to be doing this the first time, banging it around on the bench, then maybe you'll want to pull that anyway. Alright, at this point we've got all the shift linkage for the back here. We need to take 3 roll pins out. These are designed in a way that you can really only get it reassembled in a certain way. Don't forget the bushing. There are 2 of these bushings. There's one here and the other one's on the tail shaft, or it's supposed to be, for buffering on the backside to here. Was there seriously not one in there, or did I drop it down the transmission? There should have been another bushing. Alright, well, if we don't have it, we've got extra transmissions around here we can pull parts off of. You might as well go ahead and pull these roll pins all the way out, because they have to go in the same way you drove them out. The roll pins are the same throughout the transmission. And if you need to replace any of them, they are just the standard generic roll pin. Nothing special about there. Okay, now we're on to our first snap ring we gotta take off, and that one's actually a doubled up standard snap ring instead of a solid ring. So this one's got the clips, so we're actually gonna need another tool for that. That is interesting because I did that when I had a damaged clip, so that tells me this transmission's been apart before. Well, yeah, and obvious from the difference in silicone here, the factory used a black one. This blue stuff is not factory. So, not the first time somebody's been in this transmission, and clearly they damaged the pins before, or the lock ring before. Alright, now we're back to our reverse gear here. This should now pull off. I'm going to have to pry on it a little bit, most likely. There we go. You just gotta find the right balance of leveraging it. Oh. There, we damaged the synchro on the way off, but we can check it. And yeah, this one needs replacing anyway. You can see there's almost no gap, if any, between these two. Well, this is a taper that fits on this cone, so a new one is going to stop before it actually gets all the way flat. So this synchro is completely shot and worn out anyway, because, I mean, I'm pushing them together, and, I mean, there's friction there, but not enough like it should be, and it should be bottoming out closer to some gap there, because that's your wear margin. So, yeah, this one's completely worn out. At this point, we can take this off. We're going to have a bunch of little parts here inside of that synchronizer. If we can pull it off in one piece, that'd be great. All of this should be loose. You just gotta, I mean, see that whole gear and everything's coming with it. So if we put a little space under there, we just gotta work it, get off the shift shaft at the same time. Then we can pull this out. You can see we got 2 plastic pads on this one. Set that over there, and then we can lift this off all in one go. There's all them little parts I'm talking about. Gonna try to just keep this together. Oof, this transmission was cooked. It got hot, like all this discoloration here, this thing was really, really hot at some point. Yeah, we might have to do a little more checking on this thing. I try to lay out and set everything back together as it comes apart so that I know that the stacking looks like. And then when I go to clean it, I'll do that in steps to make sure that I keep everything together. This right here is your speedo gear. Do not take this off unless you are changing out 5th gear. for some reason, you don't need to touch that because, as you can see, this one here is already cracked. Yep, that one's already cracked. I can kind of pull it apart. Yeah, so we're just going to leave it. And the reason for that is they are probably heated up and set on at the factory. The bore inside of them is 2 size when you get a new one, but it actually is super out of round because it's just a casting. And if you're going to do this aftermarket, you actually should hone those with like a rod hone. I mean, it can be done with a brake hone or something like that, but either way, like it's super inconsistent surface on the bore, so you got to open that up and make sure it actually slides on there nice. And same thing, they don't have the stock snap ring on there, but all this has to do is be there to spin for the speedo to work. There you go. 2 bolts in this plate that come out next. There are pins down in between the shift forks here. They're like pill size kind of a thing. So there's 2 between, and then there's a smaller one inside of the center one. It's best to take your magnet and try to dig those out right away. There's the 2 larger ones and the smaller one. This is to make sure that the transmission can only go in 1 gear at a time. At this point, we have everything removed from the rear of the transmission that needs to come off. It should look like this. Oh, we've also, I see, have a steel ball laying here in the bottom. That is from right there. These are the detents for the gear shift. So we have caps, springs, and then there are cups down inside of there that we don't have to take out. If they're gonna come out, they'll come out easy enough. Otherwise, we just need the springs out of the way so that when we pull the front case off, they'll push out of the way and release the front of the case, the bell housing. All right. Oh, more evidence that somebody's been into this. This is a stock style shift fork pivot. However, somebody shimmed it with a washer back there. They also make adjustable ones of these. That's what I run on my Oldsmobile setup in order to make the clutch spacing work out properly and get a good release. All right, just like with the tail case, there are a few places where you can use a pry bar on here. All right, now we got a lot of parts that are going to start coming loose here. Mainly the input shaft is going to be coming off. There's some bearings in there that are going to possibly fall out. Actually, this went pretty smooth. So here's those bearing races. These are just sitting in there, so depending on how you take it apart, those might fall out right away. So we're just going to set this case off to the side for now. This input shaft is just sitting on here. We got the thrust bearing comes back and another synchro, which is also completely toast. I'm pushing as hard as I can against this and it doesn't even hold it at all. So yeah, 4th gear wasn't doing so great either. Now all of this is going to want to start coming out. Everything's loose in there now. And we're going to just try to bring it all out of the case a little bit at a time. You can just start by pushing, wiggling on everything towards the front. The big one that's going to hold everything up here is this bearing right here at the back on the secondary shaft. That one's pretty tight where you got to give it a whack to get it to move a little bit, and then I'll give you a little more room. Might have to tap on the shift sliders too. There. Just heard everything release, or at least off of the secondary shaft. Now we're going to have a start as I hit things out. It's probably going to fall apart. This is 3rd, 4th. Yeah, here. We got it far enough we can pull the secondary shaft all the way out. This is 3rd, 4th. Shift here. Alright, same thing. We have this come off. We've got all these little parts. I want to try to keep all that on as one unit. It goes on a certain way where these spaces, you got a little detent that goes on top of the, I'm not even sure what them things are called. There, and then it just kind of sits in there. So we have ability to get this the rest of the way out. Like I said, sometimes these shift pins are sticky right to the end, and they're what's going to hold you up. Can just tap them. It should never be like locked tight. Should just be a matter of getting them all the way through. Alright, all these forks do go in a different row. As you can see, they were like this. So if you need to, take notes of that and try to lay them out in a way that makes sense for it and pay attention. If not, because of their spacing and their length, it should be pretty easy to figure out which one's which. What I typically get confused is that what hole they go in. So, I mean, 3rd, 4th is obviously the center. Usually I'll get 1st and 2nd mixed up on the wrong side sometimes. So, just a good thing to pay attention to. Otherwise, if you need the help, there's manuals you can find online. I got one that's saved in my phone. It's a really good one. There. Now everything should be free. Got that bearing. And there, the case is out. Or rather, everything's out of the case except for that idler gear, but we're not even worried about that. That can stay. Wow, this is the dirtiest one of these I've ever taken apart. Oh. So if I set it up and look at it like this, it may be easier to remember. We know that the 3rd, 4th gear goes in the middle. So if I just say, hey, 1st and 2nd gear are the left, that'll help me when I put it back together. I'm gonna keep peeling this main shaft apart. We got this thrust washer right there. That comes off, and then we've got a snap ring that holds 3rd gear. Alright, and 3rd gear comes right off. We've got a bearing on there as well. 5-speed. So if you were having only 4th gear or 3rd gear issues, this is all the farther you need to go. You can replace those synchros and move on. But we got to get all the way down into these two, which is a full disassembly. So now we're back to these shitty aftermarket snap rings that Oh, seem to be just not wanting to cooperate for any reason. This one's not even tight in there. There's the ball. That just keeps that speedo from spinning. Alright, now we got 5th gear. This one's got a regular snap ring like it's supposed to have. Comes off nice and easy. Yeah, 5th gear sometimes slides off of there, otherwise it just needs a little bit of persuasion. Do make note, the step side was in. I think this can actually fit both directions. It just gets super close to rubbing on the case one way, that's why there's a step. Alright, now we're to our first press on item to remove, and that's going to be this bearing here. But I'm not going to try to get in on this bearing because as the angle lines up, you can't get a spreader in there. So I'm actually going to support the reverse gear here in order to get that out. Now, I stopped because it stopped moving. We're not completely out. I'm sure we bottomed out on another gear, so I do not want to try to break anything. Sometimes you gotta add more spacers and stuff. There we go, we were pretty much out. Okay. So we've got gear, spacer. Start trying to lay some of this stuff out in order. And we got gear that way. Yeah, now we lost a whole bunch of them little parts. I'm gonna try to pick everything up. Oh, I'm just missing a spring. Oh, the spring's still in there, so I have that. We got a bearing. We got another little tiny ball bearing there. Alright, now that's reverse, I believe. That one seemed like a fine synchro. Alright, now we're to the point where this is a press-on collar that we need to get off of there. And same deal, we'll push with the gear itself. First gear's, yeah, not terribly great, but it's got 2 different surfaces on it, so that part makes it a little different. Second gear's the same, got another gear bearing. That is weird that that's tight, but yeah, that should slide off of there. I mean, this one on the outside is, but the inside one should come with it. Well, we're at the point there where we should be able to just press the rest of it off. We are now completely disassembled. Going to have to message the customer about this one because she's crusty. I mean, surface rust and stuff, that's not as big a deal. I mean, even on these gears, that'll wear off almost immediately, in which case there's just pitting left over, and that's gonna hold a little more oil. So, I mean, it'd perfectly function just fine. I have no idea why 5th gear is just so cooked, but at the same time it looks like maybe this thing got hot on top of having water in it. the ones that concern me are that is pitted in, and that is a needle bearing surface for this. And some of these bearings, you can see the black spots on there that are also not in great shape. I mean, again, I mean, there's enough bearing surface, it would function. It might make some noise. Customer's gonna have to decide if we're just gonna send it and replace all the synchros, or if we're gonna have to maybe find another core to rebuild, because this one's looking like it's gonna need a lot of stuff to be perfect. There's also these, I can't remember what they're called for rings, so we inspect these to see how good those teeth and taper are on the outsides. One of them I saw was pretty dang beat up. This one's got, that one's up there. Yeah, see the extra shiny on the camera that's picking up? Yeah, those are beat up compared to the rest of them. However, I mean, there is enough good ones on this still that it, I mean, again, to be usable if we just want to send it. If we want it perfect, that needs to be replaced. This one's a lot more toast. That one being 3rd gear and 4th gear. That one I might want to replace altogether, just because those are 2 gears that are used a lot on a racetrack, and this guy autocrosses and does road course things, so we need to make sure that 2nd, 3rd, and 4th are all in good condition for being able to shift properly. So we'll have to wait and see. Well, the prognosis is we're gonna scrap this core. I have another core here, so we're gonna end up going through that. We'll get to the same spot and then start looking at reassembly. I want to go through and just check out some of the pictures there. We'll scroll through. Like, these gears are pitted and eaten up, and all of the shifting parts are just beat to shit. Even some of the bearings and stuff that I've never seen pitted before on any of the ones I've taken apart is pitted up. This thing definitely has some water sitting in it, and for a good long while too. Even one of the bearing surfaces on the main shaft is corroded up. That I might save, just because I'd probably polish it out if I had to have that as a part in the future. I mean, they're pretty dang tough. It's not like that's something that usually breaks, but at the same time, it's, you know, I don't know. We'll just hang on to what I might need for something else in the future, but there's enough parts that are too far gone on this transmission where the time and effort to do the 5-speed swap on the car with this, it just, unless we were slapping this thing back together and just to get it to be a driver to move it around for a little while, that'd be one thing. But to try to have this and then be used as a performance transmission, like the intent, is just, it ain't worth it. Not when we got another core sitting here, easy to work with.